Want to welcome everyone to Trenton Makes Media with the Ambassador Drill Truart II on WIMG 1300 AM, Trenton Talks Radio, sponsored by WIMG 1300 AM on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. You can tune in 1300 AM on the radio dial, or you can log in on the net at WIMG1300.com. We broadcast on Tuesday at 7 p.m. on WIMG 1300 AM. We also broadcast on Thursday at 7 p.m. on True Heart TV on Facebook and also on YouTube. So you can catch us there. We're so thankful for tonight's broadcast. We're going to have a conversation with Austin Edwards. He's an attorney with the Trenton NAACP. He's also the president of Trenton NAACP, also an attorney. Also my colleague on Trenton Board of Education. So I want to welcome my brother, Austin Edwards. We're going to have a conversation tonight about the U.S. Department of Justice investigating Trenton Police Department on a practice investigation of excessive force and illegal stops. It is a civil rights investigation of the Trenton Police Department. And so we're going to have a conversation with him about this investigation, about the community impact that it's having on our community, and also the progress that has been made so far since 2023, when the investigation started in October of 2023. What's happening, Austin Edwards? God bless you, my brother.
God bless you too, Gerald. How are you doing this evening?
I'm blessed, man. Blessed. Good to see you tonight. Want to start out. I know there's an investigation that's been started by the U.S. Department of Justice investigating Trenton Police Department, specifically an investigation called a pattern or practice investigation, or PMP investigation. And since that investigation was opened back in October 17th of 2023, you had a Facebook post October 23rd of 2023. I'm going to play that clip, and then I want to get some reaction. Let's have a conversation about the investigation and the community impact that is having on the city of Trenton in particular, because that's the investigation on the city of Trenton. So let's get right to that.
No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. My name is Austin Edwards. I'm proud to serve as the president of the Trenton NAACP. I'm here today in front of the Trenton Police Department because recently the Department of Justice and the United States Attorney's Office has opened up a civil investigation against the Trenton Police Department. And they're specifically focusing on issues of police brutality, excessive force, and misconduct, all within the department. We at the Trenton NAACP are ecstatic that this investigation is happening, mostly because just finding out the news, sending it out to everybody, the overall community responded. Finally, there's a chance of justice, and finally, we can have peace back in our community. The Department of Justice is opening their investigation over the past 5 years of issues in the Trenton Police Department. And just doing my research alone, I was able to find so many examples. For example, in 2022, Trenton police officers mistakenly raided a Trentonian's home, arresting half the family and breaking an arm of an individual, all before finding out it was the wrong place to go. In 21, Trenton police officers pulled over a man, pulled him from his car, broke his nose, and searched his vehicle, all under the guise of, quote, aggressive behavior. But then when it came to light of what was actually caught on the body cam, told a completely different story. In 2019, 2 Trenton police officers were charged with civil rights and obstruction of justice charges for assaulting a man that they were arresting, and in the same day, assaulting a second victim. While that victim was at a holding cell in Trenton Police Headquarters. And these are literally just a handful of incidents that we found over the past few years. The Department of Justice has made known that they found at least 30 to 40 more cases in the past 5 years of Trenton police officers and their assault on our community.
Hey, Austin, that's a lot of information sharing with our community
Right.
in your press conference in front of Trenton Police Department as president of the Trenton NAACP chapter here in the capital city of Trenton.
Mhm.
You know, you quoted in New York, Trenton Times or New Jersey.com. You said NewJersey.com. You said that you were ecstatic about the investigation happening, and based on that conversation and based on that press conference you had, you have some evidence there that some cases are definitely in play in terms of police brutality in the city of Trenton. What is your reaction to what's happening with the police investigation?
Well, Gerald, it's similar to what I said at the press conference in front of Trenton Police Department, right? It saddened me, the simple fact that when this investigation was finally announced that it was happening, that there were so many people, and it wasn't, just my age, the millennials or the Gen Zs. We're talking about people who are essentially my grandparents' age, having this sigh of relief, like finally something is going to be done for the years and decades of corruption that have been happening in the Trenton Police Department. The sad part is, even when we had the initial town halls, right, discussing that the investigation was starting or they were looking for information, there were so many people, and I got to give it to the United States Attorney Selinger. He came
Yeah.
out and openly said there were one or two people that when we talked to them, right, at these initial town halls, and when we took them to the side and had more conversations with them, what they told us in their initial story was actually significantly worse when we found out the real facts. I think there's a level of abuse that we've just accepted as part of our lives, right? And that those stories highlight the fact that we're used to saying, "Oh, I was treated this way," but that's just a normal day being treated by the police. When in fact, these are civil rights violations and violations of everyday tenets that the police are sworn not to do. They're sworn to protect and serve. And unfortunately, for a long time and for a lot of the population, they haven't been doing that.
So that first meeting, I believe September 12th at the Greater Mount Zion AME Church, where Reverend Charles Boyer is pastor, and had
That's
an
right.
opportunity to meet him, of course, and his organization, Salvation and Social Justice,
Right.
um,
Right.
statewide organization and group having that meeting. Um, what was that meeting like? I know you mentioned about the community coming together, but what was the sentiment that you felt? You kind of expressed that a little bit today
Mhm.
in your initial comments, but what was the sense in terms of climate and culture in that room in the conversations about this investigation back in September of 2023?
Now, I'm going to be honest with you, Gerald. The initial climate was obviously people were angry, right? Being able to finally express that anger that they've been built
Mm-hmm.
up, that they've been holding in for such a long time. But initially, and I'll say this, I'm going to put an asterisk in it. Initially, there was a lot of sense of hopelessness or just fatigue, right? It's just like, okay, we're going to come up here, tell you our sob story, and then nothing's going to happen. Nothing is going to change. And I say initially because that was before the full investigation was announced, before everything came to light, what was going on, how far back they were going, right? And that's when the hope started to occur, where people started to realize, hey, maybe this isn't the same old, same old. The Department of Justice doesn't just come in every day, right, and announce an investigation. Maybe something is going to change, right? I think one of my favorite songs, and I'm sure you know it too, right? I feel like people felt like Sam Cooke, that same change
Right.
is finally going to come. And so
Yes.
there's still a few more months in the investigation. I think it's maybe hitting about half-ish dry. There's another half year to go, 6 months plus to go. And I think people are really looking forward to some type of change.
Yeah, one of the things I did want to do is I want to quote some of the comments that Reverend Boyer made in preparation. Actually, before the investigation was actually announced, October 17th, 2023 is when the investigation actually was announced. But he said we did not have any explicit intent to get the police department investigated. He said, I want to make that very clear. But one of the things he said was very, very clear and very, very important is that our job was to get folks on the ground, who typically aren't in these spaces in the room. Our major goal was to let them know what levers of government that they could pull. I mean,
Mhm.
it's very important, I think, that we note that in terms of what Reverend Boyer said, because it's important. Boots on the ground is where the rubber meets the road, and so our community is coming together and sharing that, like you said, that pent up frustration about being attacked by police or being having whether it be unlawful force, whether it be unlawful stops, searches, arrests, whether it be things of that nature that is being investigated, is so very, very important. And
Exactly.
this particular quote comes out of NJ.com, article by Kevin Shea from New Jersey.com. That's where I'm pulling those quotes from. And the Attorney General that is investigating this is Attorney Kristen Clark, Assistant Attorney General of the Justice Department, Civil Rights Division in Washington, D.C. And one of the things that she says these allegations are serious and credible, and our investigation will seek to establish whether these allegations are true, Clark said. She also went on to say that effective policing requires public trust. When
Mhm.
law enforcement officers violate the Constitution and federal law, it erodes trust and undermines public safety efforts. She also went on to say that as we begin this investigation, we recognize the challenges that Trenton and the Trenton Police Department face in addressing violent crime, Clark said. And then she went on to say, and I'll end it here and get your comments on these quotations from Christine Clark, the U.S. Attorney General out of Civil Rights Division out of Washington, D.C. She said, but meeting these challenges, right, requires confidence by the public that the police are committed to protecting them. It requires the assurance that police do not hold themselves above the law. I think that's so very important. What are
Right.
your
Right.
comments on her quotations? This has come out of NewJersey.com article by Kevin Shea.
I really love those quotes, and I really think it highlights the job of the police, right? I myself have served in different capacities, either with government, nonprofits, my space with the NAACP. Also want to shout out Reverend Boyer, or as we call him, Rev, at Salvation and Social Justice. I'm serving as a policy counsel there. But putting yourself in these public spaces, right? Despite the fact that I may have a fancy president after my name or X, Y, and Z, at the end of the day, you're there to serve. That is the job, to serve the community. And the sad part is that there are so many good officers that day in, day out actually do that good service work, but they often get lost and caught up in the fact that there's a culture of bad officers who are taking advantage of people and really making their lives that much worse. I remember when I was working at the Attorney General's office here in New Jersey, right? That was one of the things that we highlighted with the state police. We want great officers who are going to come in, day out, and do that great work. Because when you don't have that, it actually has the opposite effect, right? When people don't trust the police, crime gets worse because they don't feel like there's anyone, the community doesn't feel like they can turn to anyone at all to solve what's going on. And so things just continue to fester, they get worse, X, Y, and Z. And this is why it's important for this investigation to find those bad officers and find the culture where these bad officers were allowed to thrive so the good officers can come back into the forefront and the community can trust them again.
I got two stories I want to share with you about my interaction with Trenton Police. The first one is not too pleasant for me.
Mm,
My son was in front of our property on Spring Street, This must have been 4 or 5 years ago.
Mm.
He was sitting in his car. We own property, pay our taxes over there,
Right.
and he was in his car. He's the owner of the property, and he got a knock on the window from unidentified person, unidentified car. He doesn't know what's going on. He takes off in the car. They chase after him, and lo and behold, he gets pulled. He stops. He actually has an accident. Gets stopped and finds out that it's Trenton police. And he gets ruffled to the ground, handcuffed. They had no probable cause. They had no, it was a nightmare for us. When I went down to the Trenton Police Department to get the investigation reports, I went down there several times, was not able to find, not find. They couldn't find it. I was not able to obtain a police report after going down there 10 times. I was back and forth, could never find the police report. I don't believe a police report was even filed.
Wow.
Right. And here's the thing. Here's the thing, right? So they found out who he was, and they said, "Oh, I coach football with your dad. We got." He said, "You know what? This is a good kid. We can't, we got the wrong one. This is a good kid."
Goodness
And I say that story to say that should not happen, right? And then on the positive note, I got a positive story. That's not too positive, right? But I got a positive story because you mentioned the good cops and the cops that are not so great, right? So I was in front of my house, coming out of my house, going on my way to work, my daily routine, and I had a 325 BMW, 325i BMW, 4-door, white, nice. I hadn't had it more than a year.
Okay.
Parked in front of my house in my driveway.
If you're not using it, feel free to let me.
Well, actually, this story you're not gonna want it. You're gonna want it.
All right.
I walk out my car, my normal routine, and I see this van pull up, go in front, and next thing I know, I'm looking down on my right side. I'm in the driver's seat. I'm in my car. The car is running, warming up. My son is in the house, getting ready to come out. I'm glad he didn't come out. I see 4 guys come down, masked. Now this is pandemic time. They're masked coming down the right side on my passenger side.
Wow.
I turned to my driver's side. I got a guy in my window on my driver's side door.
My God.
I would look like a 9mm, and he put one in the chamber and told me to get out. And so I get out of the vehicle. God be the glory, I didn't lose my life. But I was compliant. They took the car. I said, I get a new car. I wasn't thinking that at the time. I was thinking I want to jack these guys up. But I was calm. The Spirit of the Lord was upon me. I was calm. I was cool. I was collective.
Right.
And I'm still here today to tell that story.
Thank God.
And I ran to the house and said, I just got jacked. Blah, 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 to my wife. The wife called the police. They got there immediately. Must have been about 4 or 5 different cop cars there. Police officers, Trenton police officers. They came in the house, took the report. Very, very gentle, very kind, very, very cooperative. Really wanted to help. Got on the radio doing the things they were supposed to do. And then I saw these same police officers probably about, I think maybe 6 months ago. I was down in Trenton Starbucks.
Okay.
And I remembered them. And I walked in Trenton Starbucks and I walked up. This is when the investigation was going on. I said, you know what? You guys are the good guys.
There you go.
I said, you guys came to my house. I said, I remember. Did you ever get your car back? I says, no, but I had my life. And I said, I want to thank you for coming and supporting me and being there for me. And shook their hands and they were very appreciative, man. And I tell those 2 stories. Say there's two different dynamics going on.
Right.
There are very good police officers in our city of Trenton Police Department. And of course, I'm sure there's some that aren't too great, that aren't doing the right things. So yeah, I mean that those are 2 stories of the good and the bad, and the good and the ugly.
There you go. Well, I'm just very thankful that both you and your son still, have your lives at the end of both of those encounters. Right. Because Obviously, it's just property. It's just a car. Never mind. You can go ahead, keep the BMW. All right. If you ever get it
What's
back.
going now? You know what? God be so great, man. The insurance company paid it off.
There you
It was
go.
about 15 grand. They paid it off. I
There
mean,
you go. Wonderful. Wonderful. You still
so
have
I
your
was
life and you
debt
can tell
free
that
and
story.
out of that environment. But anyway, hey
There you
man, that's just two stories about the greatness of Trenton Police Department, police officers, but also some of the things that we need to see corrected as we move forward and share our
100%.
stories about our interaction with Trenton Police.
100%.
The U.S. Attorney of New Jersey, Philip Sillinger, he said investigators will try to determine if the department has an unconstitutional systematic pattern or practice of police misbehavior. The investigation is expected to take up to a year. So you said we're about 6 months in. He also has a similar probe against Newark police a decade ago resulted in a 2014 consent decree that required the department to adopt reforms.
Right.
So, I mean,
Right.
this is happening. Newark, I believe, also Illinois. There was a pattern and practice investigation in one other major city in the United States. But two, in New Jersey, Newark being one, and of course Trenton being the other. Do you know any other in New Jersey pattern and practice investigation in the state other than Newark at this point in Trenton?
Well, not full under Department of Justice investigation, but I know this is a systemic issue, right? New Jersey Attorney General's office is actually opening up an investigation. They had to take control over Patterson Police Department sometime over the summer of 2023, right? So these are, and I've seen, kind of behind the scenes, behind the veil, right? A lot of times police officers will be able to jump jurisdiction to jurisdiction, right? And
Oh wow!
oftentimes, there's very little checks, or it's just like, oh, I know Bob, right? He's a really good guy. Our kids play football together, or X, Y, and Z. Just go ahead, bring them in, right? Don't worry about all that. And sometimes things fall through the cracks. It had to take one of our previous New Jersey Attorney Generals, right, to open up. That was Grubia Graywall, right, to open up the misconduct investigations, right, where he had to, lay it out for the past 25, 30 years of all the major cases of misconduct and higher that police officers across the state were charged with or convicted of or suspected of, right, with the intention of making sure that these bad apples don't completely just hop from orchid to orchid with no repercussions whatsoever.
That's important because they hop around. They don't no investigation on what their conduct was, and they don't care, just don't know.
Right. Right.
And that's certainly an important aspect of some type of reform to make sure that doesn't happen. One of the things that Sillinger also said, he talked about a pattern and practice investigation. He said the objective of a pattern and practice investigation is not to assign blame. Sillinger said it's to help fix problems that may exist, whatever our findings may be. Our ultimate goal is to ensure that the people of Trenton are served by a police force that effectively fights crime while respecting the constitutional rights of every citizen, of every person, right? So that's crystal clear. And this, I want to make sure that everybody knows this is not a criminal investigation. This is a civil rights investigation. So
That's correct.
however, if they do, my understanding is, Attorney Austin, if they do find some issues, they will refer this to the prosecutor.
100%. Yeah, nothing is being hidden. There's no game of hide the ball, or I'm this office and I won't share any information with the other office. Like, the right hand knows what the left hand is doing when it comes to these prosecutions, right? And granted, it's an investigation into the police department, so they're not specifically made aware of all the findings and X, Y, and Z. But you don't want that, right? If you're hoping that somebody can get the right day in justice, right, after they did you wrong, right, you're not going to tell all the secrets and say, oh, this one I'm going to tell the judge tomorrow. No. You're going to keep that close to chest and share it with the people you need to share it with before you start to talk to the judge, and that's going to be it. So there's a lot of working together, and they've made it clear that that is their intention to work together and pass along whatever information needs to be passed along.
One of the things that you had mentioned some incidents, police brutality incidents of that in our city in uh, your public statement, your press conference in front of the Trenton Police Department as president of NAACP. There's a police department that has about 250 officers, and Trenton is the state's fifth largest city. Did not realize knows that fifth largest city.
Right.
An officer was criminally indicted last year for pepper spraying an elderly woman, Joseph Ayor, on his porch after police officers went to the home to talk to his son in 2020. Ayer died 3 weeks later. I mean, that's one incident. Two officers were charged in 2019 for beating a man after a routine traffic stop. I mean, you mentioned many other and maybe some of these issues as well in your press conference in front of Trenton Police Department. The other officer in 2022 shooting of an unarmed motorist, which left him paralyzed, drove the city council president to demand more transparency and asked for the police director's resignation. I mean, it got pretty serious. Officers made headlines in 2020 after they retained a man in mental crisis by kneeling on him as he lay face down in the dirt until he fell limp. He was declared dead minutes later.
Wow.
That's just some of the cases that you mentioned. You said 30 to 40. You mentioned about 4 or 5, I think, in your press release in front of Trenton Police Department. Maybe these are some of those, but maybe these are addition to ones you mentioned. But you also said that there are about 30 or 40 more cases that are being investigated under this investigation, civil rights investigation of Trenton Police Department officers doing things that unlawful, using unlawful force.
Yes, yes, and unfortunately, those are just numbers that were quoted to me upon the initial investigation being announced. Since then, and we've been doing this with the NAACP, we're reaching out to community members, right? Black, Hispanic, Latino, white, right? Anybody who's willing to come forward and talk about their experience. And just alone, we've been able to get in contact with about 10 or 20 different stories, additionally, of people in their treatment of the Trenton police. And the sad part is, right, and this is, I'm saying this with the asterisk, right? The sad part is, right, it's not just civilians. There are also Trenton police officers who are being treated badly by other Trenton police officers. Wow. Right? It's just such a sad culture where, the ones who are serving protecting, those good cops, the ones who are trying to do that good work, can't even feel safe with their own colleagues. Right? And that is just, when you're in uniform being treated like that, that is abysmal. Imagine how the regular Joe Schmo in the community is being treated. Gerald, you highlighted earlier the fact that your son was treated a certain type of way, right? First of all, I don't know why these police are walking up to anybody, just knocking on a window, right? Not announcing themselves. Hey, we're police. Get out the car. This is X, Y, and Z. I'd be terrified too. I don't know who this guy is with a gun, right in my face. I'm feeling out. But the only thing that really saved him that day seemed to be the fact that they knew he was a good kid. That shouldn't be the case, right? If officer 187 doesn't know who I am, right, and just decides, oh well, he looks like a ne'er-do-well, he looks like some type of knucklehead, right? And I'm going to treat him however I feel like being treated. First of all, that is unconstitutional, and secondly, that's not the job. You're supposed to treat everybody with a decent level of respect. That's the job.
You said hit the nail on the head. Right. I mean, one of the things that, Mayor Reed Gutierrez, who's in his second term, he says a couple things. He said, my administration knows all too well the difficulty and danger police officers face on a daily basis.
Right.
He goes on to say, hold on one second. Go ahead. Just if you can comment on that quote very quickly.
Yeah, I think that's actually very true. Like the police officer's job is very difficult and it is very dangerous. Like I'm not gonna, front like I'm some type of tough guy, bodybuilder, right? There's a reason, I'll be honest with you, Gerald, that I became a lawyer, right? Because I know the best place for me is behind a desk, right? Writing papers, writing memos, the craziest I get is before opposing counsel when we're in front of a judge, right? That's me. I'm not built to be a police officer because I know the dangers involved with the job. That's why I have respect for the ones who are able to do the job well. But secondly, I also want to highlight some of the alternatives to this, right? If this is a job that's really that dangerous and X, Y, and Z, and we want to start reducing some of these dangers that police face, let's also turn to alternative solutions, right? Not just community policing, but our community being our police. With Salvation Social Justice and with IOS, we have street teams that are in the
Mhm.
street day in, day out. And these aren't just, random people that we picked up on a corner. These are people that train professionals from the communities that they serve. We have them going into schools, working with kids, reducing violence, reducing mental health issues, right, and incidents that happen, meeting families, touching lives in a way that people, only those in the community, can understand and relate to.
That's good. That's good, man. You know, street team, they're so critical, and actually, they're also,
Hmm.
as you well know, in our school district,
Hmm.
actually in our school system, in our buildings, working with students, um, and reducing, changing the culture, changing the climate, being, community involved, and
Right.
really connecting with our students. That's so very critical, so very important. Changing
100%.
the culture and climate of our city and our community. We're all in this together, working together to uplift, never to tear down, always to uplift and edify, but never to tear down.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
that's so very important.
Hmm.
Reed continued on, and he said, "We thank and support the overwhelming majority of officers," and I think this is a true statement,
Right.
at the city, county, and state level who do the right things. There's certainly, I know there's officers. I've met them and I've had conversations with them,
Hmm.
doing the right things every day to keep Trenton safe, Gutierrez said. He
Hmm.
credited Trenton officers for seizing drugs, more than 200 guns, and 133,722 from gun and drug traffickers in recent months. This was back when the NewJersey.com article was written,
Hmm.
back in November of 2023. So that was some time ago. Maybe those numbers have increased. He says, but we also recognize that the community trust in our police force is critical.
Exactly.
Gutierrez said. Went on to also say, if any member of law enforcement violates violates the public trust or acts in contra, contravention of state and federal laws, they should and must be held accountable. What are your thoughts on his on things that he said?
That's 100% true, right? We can't be able to just believe that every police officer, unfortunately, is doing the right thing, right? We have to merit them out one by one because there's been such a culture where they haven't been doing the good things, right? And it's a shame because there are so many who are doing their job very well day in, day out. But everyone is just like, oh, yeah, I'm not going to call TPD for X, Y, and Z issue because, I don't know which one I'm going to get. I'm going to get Joe, who's, actually a really good guy, who's going to care about me and my family. I'm going to get Sean that, is going to kick in the door and like, wave a gun around the first, just upon walking in, right? You never know exactly which officer you're going to get. Hopefully through investigations like this, through the community coming forward and telling their stories and really getting to the bottom of whatever issues are going on, we can get to the point where we know our officers that are coming in. We know that they're going to help out, and we know that we can really trust them around our families, around ourselves, regardless of background, regardless of race, and regardless of past treatment from the TPD.
Amen. I mean, we've been talking, having conversation with Austin Edwards, attorney, also President Trenton NAACP, in reference to the U.S. Department of Justice investigating Trenton Police Department pattern and practice investigation of excessive force and illegal stops. It's a civil rights investigation. Again, it's not a criminal investigation. And we have Christine Clark, who is Assistant AG for Department of Civil Rights Division in Washington, coming out of Washington, D.C., and U.S. Attorney General Sillinger out of the state of New Jersey as well. Mayor Reed has chimed in, as well as his director, Steve Wilson, in cooperation with the investigation and making sure that our police culture and climate is the utmost about public safety and about our community. I know he mentioned also there's a fine line between enforcement and community engagement. You have to really balance that culture and community together, because law enforcement, you have to enforce the law, but also you have to have a community engagement piece, which really balances out, law enforcement and the community engagement with police. And later on this month, or in February, I'll be having the community engagement officers on to talk about community engagement. There's some officers, man, they're doing some great work here in the capital city of Trenton, New Jersey, around community engagement. We got, I believe, 4 officers that I know of who are engaged with the community on it. That's their job as police officers, to being community engagement officers, being involved in the community. And I was just talking to Director Wilson at an event about a month ago before the holiday season, and he said he gave the green light. Yes, we need to have you on, have those officers on to talk about the community engagement piece of our community work as Trenton Police Department. So it's a lot of great work happening.
Good. We love to see it. And that's what I think we shouldn't be surprised that they exist, right? If anything, we should be continually fighting that be the norm. We should say to ourselves, hey, the police that are in our communities, right, at during the holiday season, giving out, candy and treats and toys, right, the ones that are shaking our hands. And I think there were over the years viral videos of police officers who are out here just dancing at block parties, right?
Right, I remember that. Yeah.
That should be the norm.
Right.
So everything else, the excessive force, the brutality, the corruption, that should be abnormal. We shouldn't be used to that. And I'm hoping that we can get back to a place where we're used to, I want to see more officers doing Dougies with us, right? And really ingrained in the community.
One of the things that will come out of this investigation, a couple of things. One, there'll be a report of findings, if any, are found, and then given to corrective action. Of course, Trenton Police Department doing a corrective action plan. But then, if those corrective actions are not put into place, that there can be a lawsuit brought against the city to enforce those findings and corrective actions. So they're actually going to be reviewing the policies, they're reviewing accountability systems, citizen complaints, officer discipline, and a host of other things, right? That's in a nutshell what they're going to be looking at in terms of unlawful force, unlawful stops, searches, seat arrest, and so forth. And I want to mention this. You guys, we are, NAACP Trenton, on the forefront of making sure our leader is president of NAACP, on the forefront of making sure that the community is involved and engaged in this work, and that they have knowledge of it. What are some of the future plans that you have as president of NAACP Trenton chapter, Trenton branch, to communicate more about the community, about this investigation, so that more people are aware of it and can share their thoughts?
Right. So we're actually having the Department of Justice and the United States Attorney's Office come back to the community and give us whatever updates they can about it. Right. We know it's still pending. We know it's still under investigation. They can't share all the details. But this Saturday, actually, Gerald, Saturday, we're going out to Galilee Baptist Church at 12 p.m. And they're going to come down, speak to us about what's going on, and most importantly, take testimony like they did before. Hear the community story, follow up with you, right? Sit down, right? If you got an hour of your time, they'll take the time, hear your story, follow up with you, right? And add it to the investigation as a whole. We're really trying to make sure that the community understands that none of this is possible without your stories, right? I know the investigation is going back only 5 years, but again, like I started off, there are generations of people who were treated terribly by the police. All of these things have a combined effect, right? These stories that come forward, they paint a picture and they really pinpoint the things that need to be fixed, right? So even if your story is from 25 years ago or 25 days ago, please come out, Galilee Baptist Church, right, this Saturday, noon. And we're going to have the opportunity for you to share your story. Other than that, we are constantly listening. We're constantly reaching out to the community with NAACP, taking testimonies, right? Like I said before, we got 10 to 20 different stories right now, and it all just depends whether everybody wants to submit or not. I'm trying to push them so we can get to that point of really changing things, letting them know that every story is anonymous, right? That you're not going to be recorded anywhere. Your name's not going to be put down, but your story will tell the tale. So please come out to Galilee. Please come out to our Trenton NAACP general body meetings every third Saturday of the month at James Kearney campus, Mercer County Community College, from 10 to 12. Reach out to us on Facebook, right? However you can touch us so we can help improve your lives with this investigation.
You got another upcoming event coming too.
Which one is that?
That?
Yeah, please do.
The luncheon, you have a luncheon coming up, correct?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. So also on February 10th, Saturday, February 10th, starting at 10 a.m., we have a Roy Wilkins luncheon, right? That's happening at Cooper's Riverview, right? So if you don't know what Cooper's is, right? It's
Right,
the cat,
hey.
it's the Catmandu,
Catmandu.
it's the row, it's the whatever you feel like calling it, right?
Catmandu, right? Yeah.
Come out Saturday, February 10th, 10 a.m. We have tickets for sale. You can Zelle us your information, right? You know how many tickets. You can take out ads to support the luncheon, but we're really trying to honor all of our lifetime members, right? And these are people for day in, day out, right? However long you've been, God's give you on this planet Earth, you've been doing the civil rights fight. I know I'm a lifetime member, and I'm hoping that many other people can become lifetime members or just members as a whole. Starts as low as $30 per year to join. Well, let me say that one more time. $30, not a
That's good. That's good.
Not a month, not a day.
Right.
$30 per year to join the Trenton NAACP Unit 2108B.
Amen, brother. Hey, man, I have to give a shout out to my one of my mentors in the ministry, Pastor Reverend Dr. John H. Harris Jr., Galilee Baptist Church. I know you're having the event there this weekend, man, but Dr. John H. Harris Jr., man, my brother in ministry, one of my mentors in ministry, great man of God. Looking forward to you guys being there this Saturday, sharing this community information about the Trenton Police Department, get an update to the community about what's happening on the investigation. So very important. Of course, all the things you said about Trenton NAACP, guys, folks, will you, sir, please join, come on board, share in the fight, victory and breakthrough that we're fighting, man. Civil rights and all kind of things that we need to be fighting for.
Yep.
And Austin, thank you so much for your time tonight, your time to be a part of this broadcast and share this information. We'll be back to share more information about the investigation, about the Trenton branch of NAACP. Thank God for you. I appreciate you coming on board. You've been listening to
Thank you.
Ambassador Gerald Trueheart here at Trenton Makes Media, Trueheart TV on WIMG 1300 AM, 5 times Stellar Award-winning gospel station. You can catch us on our broadcast on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. on WIMG 1300 AM on the dial, or you can log in, go to your internet provider and type in www.wimg1300.com. You can also catch us on Facebook, the recording on Facebook, our rebroadcast on Thursdays at 7 p.m. on Trueheart, our station, Trueheart TV, on Facebook. So God bless each and every one of you for listening this evening, and thank God for our sponsor, WIMG 1300, as well as WPHY Verizon Channel 28 is also one of our sponsors. And thank you so much Attorney Austin Edwards, Trenton NAACP president. God bless you.
God bless you too, Gerald.
Thank you.
Just thankful I'm able to serve.